There are sick cows to treat. You could spend time finding them, or they could come to you with AffiSort. Fast, affordable, accurate. That's the power of AffiMilk.
Hello, I'm Matthew Malcolm with California Dairy Magazine, reporting to you here today with Paul Sousa from Western United Dairies. We've talked a lot over the years about AMP and the manure management programs. There's a lot of digester, a lot of great grant-funded programs that dairy producers have been involved in, but there's a relatively new one. It's called Dairy Plus, right? And can you tell us about that and how dairy producers might be able to get involved and plan? Because I hear applications are coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, so this is a good time to be thinking about this and getting ready for it. This is funding that came from an application from the California Dairy Research Foundation to the USDA's Climate Smart Commodities program. And the idea is that you have to reduce agricultural greenhouse gas emissions. CDFA applied for that, but they put in a caveat that in addition to reducing the carbon footprint, you also have to improve nutrient management on the dairy, help groundwater quality. And a lot of those technologies are the same, so it's a perfect fit. You can do both with one technology, save yourself the expense, and so it's a great opportunity for dairies to apply. For an additional $85 million is what was granted to the California Dairy Research Foundation for California dairies to implement these technologies. California Dairy Research Foundation partnered with the California Department of Food and Agriculture to administer the program, because as you mentioned, the AMP program, the digester program, CDFA has staff in place. They have all the systems in place. And so we thought, instead of reinventing the wheel, we'll get the funding, we'll spend less of that funding in management of it and have CDFA go ahead and do the administration of that. It is tied to the alternative manure management program. You would have to either have a digester or an alternative manure management program project, either at the same time or a previous application, to be able to put Dairy Plus on the back end of that. The types of projects they're doing, vermifiltration is one, and it was a popular one in this last round. And what that does is you create this worm bed where you sprinkle the liquid manure over it, and the worms digest the organics and the materials in that, and they denitrify the nitrogen into nitrogen gas that's 80% of the atmosphere. And so really reduces your nitrogen load on your dairy and creates worm castings, which is a type of compost that then would be sold off of the dairy for some revenue. And so that's one of them. There's also high-tech separation, polymer-assisted separation that separates manure. We have manure separators on dairy, but these are more high-tech. They use a polymer material that you put in the water. It flocculates the manure together. All those fines get pulled together into a larger piece that then can get pulled out. And so there's nutrients in that. You're taking manure out of the flush water, keeping it out of the lagoon, so that it doesn't form methane in the lagoon when it decomposes. And then you're also getting those nutrients out of the water into a dry form that you can haul off. So we've had one round of applications in this past summer. There were, I believe, 15 projects funded, if I remember correctly. 12 of those associated with AMP projects and 3 of them associated with digester projects. So folks are just getting started. I had somebody here this morning that was awarded one of those, talking about it. Said nothing's on the ground yet, but getting paperwork and everything in place. They're working on that. And so if you're thinking about this, you got another round coming up. This is the time, especially for Dairy Plus, because it's a little more complex than an AMP project. So I definitely would recommend folks start early on that for when the applications come out later this year, mid-year. We're thinking April, May. There's nothing been set yet, but that's kind of what I'm hearing, the time frame that applications would be released. And then there's going to be a 60-day application window once the applications get released. And that is not enough time to start the process and have a good application. They are competitive. You have to have an application that's better than the next dairies, and doing that at the last minute is not the way you do that. So I would encourage, if somebody's thinking about that, definitely start early. Start thinking about what's the right thing for my dairy. Start talking to some vendors, get some bids, get some ideas, and try to get something together for an application.
Yeah, so as far as putting together an application, you said it's not an easy process. Do you have some recommendations of who these dairy producers could potentially work with to help fill out that application. You said in partnership with CDFA and CDRF.
Yeah, I'm one of those people for the Alternative Manure Management Program. I'm a technical service provider. I actually am funded by CDFA to help dairymen with their AMP applications. In this last round, I worked with 3 dairies on the Dairy Plus. I did not complete their applications completely. In some cases, the vendor was kind of the lead on the applications. They had a lot of questions for me because I had more history and they were new to the program or the whole process. And so the vendors were contacting me with questions. I was more answering questions for them as opposed to filling out the applications. For AMP, I fill out the applications, and it goes from answering questions from a dairyman who's working on his own to, I don't know how to use a computer, Paul, can you, and they give me bids, they give me, information, and I put together an application. So those, either the vendor of your technology or somebody like me, myself, or CDFA has on their website a list of the technical service providers that can help you with your application. But it's not simple.
Yeah, and these investments sound like great things for sustainability and for the dairies, but it sounds very expensive. So, that's why this grant funding's here, to help supplement that cost. So, what would you say is, the amount of money that they can get out of these grants? Like, how much money is at stake, to jump through all the hoops to get there?
Yeah, definitely worthwhile, yes. So $750,000 on AMP with no cost match required. So you can get a $750,000 on your project on your dairy with no out-of-pocket cost. That's an incredible opportunity. And as you said, it has numerous benefits for your dairy. It can position you for the future, for environmental regulations that are coming down the pike. It can make your dairy more efficient, help you with water quality as well as air quality, potentially reduce labor. There's a lot of different things where this may help your dairy. Productivity for some dairies that I've worked with, the animals are in a better housing environment, productivity improves. And so positioning yourself for the future is very important. The Dairy Plus program is a little bit different. It's on a per cow basis, and so it depends on the dairy size, but it has a higher limit. I think it was $1.5 million. You'd have to look at all the details of that, but it's a higher limit, and you have to get one of the other projects. So you could get an AMP for $750,000, and then you can get a Dairy Plus on top of that. And I think there it would be capped at $1 million. In this last round, it was anyway. So $1.7 million for practices on your dairy that help improve efficiency, improve manure management, and prepare you for the future on your dairy.
Emphasis on the plus.
Yes,
right there, yeah.
And that's the Dairy Plus, exactly. It's the plus part. You have to have one of the first two, either a digester or AMP, and then it's Dairy Plus.
Well, hey, thank you so much, Paul, for taking the time. Appreciate your help. Even with some of these dairy producers trying to fill out the applications, not an easy thing, but thank you so much. Read more about these things in California Dairy Magazine. I'm Matthew Malcolm, CaliforniaAgNet.com.